The cafe pulsed with noise. Espresso hissing chairs, scraping voices layered like static. Jackson, the awkward new hire, reached for a stack of cups. His grip faltered. Porcelain slid, crashed, shattered. The sharp crack silenced everything. Even the coffee machine seemed to stop mid-breath. Heads turned. Phones paused mid-scroll. Silas, broad-shouldered and sharp-eyed, froze the air with a single roar. "Are you serious right now?" The words cut deeper than the broken shards on the floor. Customers twisted in their seats, some lifting phones to record. Jackson bent down, fingers trembling as they brushed the fragments, his face shadowed by cheap glasses. The air pressed heavy, thick with judgment. A humiliation staged in daylight too public to escape. Beneath the disguise, his chest tightened, not from the shards, but from the weight of hiding who he really was. Jackson pushed open the glass door, swallowed by the hum of the cafe. His disguise was almost laughable. Thick, rimmed glasses, an unconvincing wig, a plain shirt 2 sizes too big. Nothing about him suggested power. Nothing hinted at boardrooms or balance sheets. To anyone here, he was clumsy, forgettable, disposable. But under that thin mask, the truth pressed heavy. He was the CEO of the empire that owned this place. No one else knew. He adjusted the glasses, forcing himself to blend into the stream of workers weaving. Behind the counter, the smell of espresso clung to the air, bitter and strong. Wooden tables sat in rows, polished but scarred, as though elegance had eroded into fatigue. The overhead lamps cast a golden haze, but their glow felt cold, detached. Jackson murmured inside his head, "I have to see it myself. No reports, no excuses." The truth raw. Each step tightened the knot in his chest. He wanted to vanish into the role. Yet the irony burned a man of wealth, pretending to be powerless, walking into a kingdom he had built, but no longer recognized. At the back counter, a young woman waited, her apron already tied. She handed Jackson one of his own forest green stiff with starch. "Here," she said, her voice soft. Her hands lingered for a second too long, a quiet kindness, but her eyes told a different story. Restless, alert, as if danger lived here daily. Jackson slipped the apron over his head, fumbling with the knot. Marbelle leaned close, lowering her voice to a whisper meant for him alone. "Stay out of Silas's way," she warned. No flourish, no exaggeration, just truth wrapped in fear. Her lips curled into a polite smile, but the tension in her jaw betrayed her. Jackson forced a nod, concealing the twist in his stomach. He had been warned about numbers, turnover, low morale, declining profits. But this was something else, something you could feel in the air. A warning disguised as casual advice spoken by someone who had learned survival by keeping her head low. The cafe buzzed on around them, but in that brief exchange, Jackson sensed the ground shifting. The people here were not lazy or weak. They were tired soldiers in a war no one outside cared to see. The first time Jackson saw Silas, the room itself seemed to react. He was tall, shoulders squared beneath a faded shirt, hair pulled back into a careless knot that exposed a jagged undercut. A man carved from defiance. His eyes were the kind that never softened, sharp enough to make strangers look away. A tray clattered in the corner, and his voice snapped through the cafe like a whip. "Move faster." The barista startled, fumbling with cups. Customers stiffened, some pretending not to notice. Around Silas, the air was taut, charged as if he carried his own weather. Workers skirted his path, careful not to collide, careful not to ignite. Jackson caught himself holding his breath. This wasn't management's report, sterile on paper. This was raw authority without tidal discipline, without gentleness. Mabel leaned toward him, voice barely audible. "That's Silas." The name fell heavy, as if it needed no introduction. Jackson adjusted his apron, trying not to stare. For the first time, he wondered if the greatest danger to his cover wasn't exposure, but surviving the storm that walked in human form. At the register, a boy, no older than 20, struggled to steady his grip on the pitcher. Milk sloshed against the metal froth, spilling over. Orin's hands trembled so badly, the cup rattled on the counter. Behind him, the shift manager hissed through clenched teeth, "Faster. You're dragging the numbers down." The words landed heavier than the pitcher itself. Sweat beaded at Orin's temple, rolled down and stained the green apron. His lips moved with hurried apologies, stumbling over words the customers ignored. A woman in line tapped her foot, impatient, her eyes narrowed with disdain. Each second stretched the queue, growing restless from across the counter. Jackson watched. He felt the pressure without wearing the apron, felt the weight of every demand crushing this boy's back. The scene was small, ordinary to the crowd, but to Jackson it was a revelation. It wasn't laziness or incompetence. It was fear, weaponized by authority, a cycle that reduced a young worker to fragments. When Orin finally slid the cup across, it sloshed onto the counter, staining napkins. He muttered, "Sorry again." Voice breaking, no one